Hello and welcome. We're going to work on time value of money. I'm working on intermediate accounting, which is chapter 6, but this topic is universal for all business students, all people that want to learn about business or finances. So this is time value of money. It's an introduction to time value of money, and I'm going to do it on Excel. So time value of money is the idea that a dollar is worth more today than in the future. So if you have $1 today or $100 today, it's worth more than it is in 5 years or 10 years. Now the reason for that is because of inflation, because slowly over time, inflation, the dollar loses its value because of inflation. Inflation destroys the purchasing power of a dollar slowly over time. Now we hope it's slowly. If you're in an area or a time when there's high inflation, then that destroys the value of your currency very quickly. So a 3% inflation means your dollars purchase 3% less than it did a year ago. The other reason a dollar is worth more today is because of interest. You can invest and earn interest. Now, the best methods, I guess this is a plural here, the best methods to calculate time value of money. The spreadsheet or Excel is kind of the standard. That's the number one way. All right, so one of the things you want to get familiar with is using a spreadsheet or using Excel, and I'm going to show you how to do Excel. The other way is a handheld calculator, financial calculator, or now an app on a mobile device. And so the number one calculator is the BA2 Plus, the Texas Instruments BA2 Plus. There's a professional model, so that is an excellent calculator. Here is a picture of the BA Finance Pro. It's for iOS, but if you have Android or you have another mobile device, you can search for BA2 Plus, and there'll be an emulator. So this app, I believe it's $6 for iOS, where you can do calculations quicker. So Excel is the best way. You can list everything out, model it, change the numbers, and then the financial calculator, the app, is an excellent way. There are formulas. You can go back and use formulas. That is not very efficient. The worst way is to do an interest table. That's just not very precise, and it's very, very simple, but not really complex enough to get really good problems calculated. All right, so let's talk about the idea of time value of money. So there's things that we need to know. First of all, the periods per year or the compounding frequency. You could have a loan or an investment that it's compounded once a year, that's annual. It could be compounded twice a year, that's semi-annual. 4 times a year is quarterly, or 12 times a year is monthly. So when you first start, you think, oh, there's all sorts of numbers we could put here, but really it gets down to 1, 2, 4, or 12. Now, on the calculator, this doesn't really matter so much on Excel. On the calculator, some people always leave it set for 1 periods per year and then adjust the interest rate. We're going to have to do this on Excel. This is essentially the Excel method. So on Excel, you have to do the 1 period per year because there's no periods per year function. Now, if you're doing the calculator, and this can be a different video, then I would set the periods per year to 1, to 2, to 4, to 12. That's what I would recommend. And that way you can always work with the annual interest rate. You don't have to adjust the interest rate. Now, time value of money, if you look here, the time value of money, the financial calculator has 5 extra buttons. And these are the 5 buttons, and you need to understand what these are. And we'll do examples here in just a second. The N is the number of periods. Now, this is not just years. If the if the problem is annually, then it's years. If the problem is twice a year, that's half years or semi-annually. If it's quarterly, it's quarters. If it's a monthly payment or a monthly problem, then it's how many months. So a 5-year car loan is really 60 months is the N, not 5. So be careful on that. I/Y or interest is the annual interest rate. We're going to think of it in terms of annual interest rate. We may need to convert it to a periodic rate. PV is present value. That is a lump sum or a single amount at the beginning of the problem. It means it's not a stream of payments. The next one is payment, which is a stream of payments. Could be plus, could be minus if you're adding to the account or subtracting from the account. The last one is future value, and that's a single amount or a lump sum at the end of the problem. So let's look at a little table. I've given you the terms basically on the calculator. So the periods per year for Excel, remember there's none for periods per year, so we'll have to adjust. And Excel uses periods in PER. The interest rate, they call it rate. Present value is PV. Payments are PMT, and future value is FV. So let's get started on some problems. The easiest ones to figure out at first are the solve for future value. You invest $3,000 today in an account that grows at 8% for 10 years. What will it be worth at the end, or what is the future value? So the periods per year doesn't say, so it's going to be 1 period per year. The number of periods is going to be 10. The interest rate is going to be 8%. The present value, we invest $3,000 today. Now, I'm going to enter it as positive and show how it works. There's no payment. If there were a payment, it would say so. So we're going to try to solve for the future value. Now, I'm going to use the formula builder here. So I'm going to look for future value, just so you can see what's going on. Now, here's what we have. We want the rate. Now, we want to do the rate. So I'm going to divide it by the periods per year. Now, divided by 1 is not going to be very helpful, but we could change this, and I'll do a little what if on it. The number of periods is going to be 10. The payment is 0. Just point to it. The present value is 3,000. Now remember, we made 3,000 positive. Now we have one thing that says type. Type is at the payment at the beginning of the period or the payment at the end of the period. Well, the payment, there's no payment, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to assume the payment is the end of the period. We're going to put 0. 0 here. If we omit it, it assumes 0. So the answer comes out to be negative 64.76. Now, if we enter this as a positive, the 3,000 is positive, then the future value comes out to be negative. What happens if we enter the 3,000 as negative? Well, it becomes a positive 64.76. The number doesn't change, but the sign does. Now here's what happens with your calculator or with Excel. Present value and future value are opposites. They're like debits and credits. They're like positive and negative, right? One has to be positive, one has to be negative. It doesn't really matter which one it is. So what the convention typically is on calculating time value of money, since we're paying $3,000 to try to receive $6,400, then this is the preferred approach, is to say negative 3,000 equals positive 6,400. Okay, now you never would say negative. You don't say, I went to the store and paid a negative $70 for groceries. You just say, I went to the store and paid $70 for groceries. The negative is kind of built in because it's a payment, right? So a payment is, if it's an outflow of cash, we make it negative. If it's an inflow of cash, we make it positive. Okay? All right, so solve for future value. Let's do another one. An account has $15,000. You can add $300 per month for 20 years, and the interest rate is 9%. What is the future value? Same kind of problem, except now we have a present value and we have a payment. So the number of years, this is months. So this needs to be a monthly problem because we're adding $300 per month. So what is the number of periods? Do we put 20 here? No, we do not. We put, I'm going to calculate it just so you can see it more visually, times 12. 20 years times 12. This is a monthly problem, so we have to use the number of months is 240. Now the interest, the annual interest is 9%. Now Excel does not have a button that says make this monthly, so we're going to have to convert, and we'll show you how to do this in just a second. We're going to solve for future value, and we have a present value of $15,000, and we have a payment of $300. Now, do we need to enter these as positive or negative? Well, if we enter this as a negative $15,000 and a negative $300, then our answer will come out to be positive future value, which we feel better about. If we put a negative number out in the future, like, oh, I'm worried, I have to owe that. No, that doesn't matter. So at some point, when you get good enough, you can just ignore the sign. In this one, because if you put them in positive, then they come out to be negative. If you put these as negative, you make them positive. All right, so let's do future value here. The rate is going to be 9% divided by 12. Now, this is an annual rate of 9% divided by 12, so it's 0.75% per month. The number of periods, we already did 240. The payment is negative $300. The present value is negative $1,500. We didn't say the payments happen at the beginning of the period, so they happen at the end of the period. So if your account has $15,000, you add $300 per month for 20 years, and you get 9% interest, you're going to have $290,503 at the end of 20 years. Pretty great, right? Well, this is what time value of money can do. Now, any of these 5 functions, any of these 5 inputs, we can solve. So first thing we did was solve for future value. We're going to solve for present value. We will receive $100,000 each year for 10 years. The interest is 6%. What is that annuity worth today? Well, it's 1 period per year. The number of periods is 10. 6 is the interest rate. We have a payment of $100,000, and we have no future value, no lump sum at the end. So what's all that worth today? Well, this is a present value problem, PV. So we need similar information. We need the rate to be 6%. Now, we're going to divide it by the 1. The number of periods is going to be 10. The payment is going to be $100,000. The future value is going to be 0, and the payments happen to the end of the period, 0. So the answer is, if you receive a stream of payments of $100,000 for 10 years, what is it worth today? It's worth $736,000. Now, that big negative number looks scary to us. So one thing we can do is, remember we're building that formula, we can just make it a negative. So that answer comes out to be a positive. The answer is $736,000 is what that $100,000 for 10 years is worth today. Now, the other way to think about it is, if you invested $736,000 today, you could withdraw $100,000 at the end of each next 10 years. You could withdraw $100,000 if you earn 6% interest, and then that account would have 0 balance at the end of 10 years. All right, the next problem, we have a $100,000 10-year bond that pays semi-annual interest payments of $4,000. The yield is 6%. What is the price or present value of the bond? Now, this is semi-annual. The number of periods is 10 times 2, so 20 half years. The interest rate is 6%. We're solving for present value. We're going to make the payment $4,000, and the future value is $100,000. So we're going to calculate the present value. The rate is 6%, and we need to divide it by the 2. We were dividing by 1 earlier, which is not very meaningful, but that gets you in a good habit. The number of periods is 20. The payment. Now, one thing we can do, we can say, I can make the payment, I can add the payment to be negative here. I'll put in negative $4,000 and put a negative $100,000. So my answer comes out to be positive. So what is that bond worth? That bond is worth $114,877. So you could sell it today for $114,877, but you're giving up your chance to receive $100,000 in 10 years and $4,000 every 6 months, or $8,000 a year. All right, the next one, let's solve for payments. So now we're going to solve for the payments. So here's a good example, a car payment. You buy a car for $23,000 and finance it for 5 years or 60 months. The interest is 5% compounded monthly. How do we know? Because we're making monthly payments. And so the question is, what is your monthly car payment? Your monthly car payment is calculated like this. So 12 is the number of periods per year. We have 60 months, so I'm going to actually calculate 5 times 12, 60 months. You could just use 60. The interest is 5%. The present value is going to be $23,000. That's how much we have to borrow. The future value, it doesn't say the future value. We know we're going to pay off this loan over 5 years, so the future value is 0. So we need to figure out, what is our car payment? What is your monthly car payment? Now this is the function called PMT. So we're going to search for PMT. Our payment is the rate divided by the 12. The number of periods is going to be the 60. The present value is $23,000. The future value is going to be 0. And the payments happen at the end of the period. So what is our car payment? Our car payment is $434. Our car payment is $434. It's going to be negative because we're going to make that payment every month. So you've borrowed $23,000. You're paying it over 60 months at an interest rate of 5%. So here is your car payment, $434 per month. All right, the next one for payment. Let's say you want to have $1 million at age 65, and you're 25. You currently have started, which is good, $1,000 saved, and you think you can earn 8% over a long period of time, over the next 40 years, right? What monthly amount do you need to save to achieve your goal? Now, here's the idea of time value of money. If you start early, then this payment's going to be really small. All right, the present value, periods per year rather, is 12. The number of periods is going to be 40 times 12, so 480 payments. So our interest rate per year we think is going to be 8%. Our present value is 1,000, and we want it to grow to 1 million. Our present value is 1,000. We need to figure out some kind of payment to make that account grow to 1 million. So this is a present value calculation. So our rate is 8% divided by the 12. It's not 8% per month, it's 8% annually, compounded monthly. The number of periods is 480. The present value is 1,000. We'll make it a negative 1,000. Our future value is going to be 1 million, and the payments happen at the end of the period. So our answer is $279.50. So we need to make a payment out of our pocket for $279.50. If we get 8% annual interest, then it will grow to $1 million. Pretty great, right? All right, the next one, let's solve for interest rates. Sometimes we don't know the interest rate. We need to back in and solve for it. You might have an investment and you'd like to know, hey, what was my rate of return? We're going to solve for interest rate. So your investment of $10,000 has grown to $28,400 in 9 years. What is your annual rate of return? This is also called the compound annual growth rate, or CAGR. We call it CAGR. So the periods per year is 1. The number of periods is 9 years. The interest we do not know. Present value was $10,000. Payment was 0. We did not add to the account, and it grew to $28,400. So we're going to solve for the interest rate. The formula here is rate. We're going to solve for the rate. The number of periods is 9. The payment is 0. The present value is 10,000. We need to make this a negative 10,000 because that's what we put in the account. The future value is going to be 28,400. The payments happen at the end of the period, and we have a chance to guess. We don't have to guess, but let's just say that, let's think our guess is 10%. So here is our answer. So it is 12.3%. If our account went from 10,000 up to 28,400 in 9 years, then we earn 12.3%. It's annual rate. It comes out to be an annual rate, and that's fine. That's how we do it. Next one, let's change it to a monthly investment. Let's say your account had a balance of 27,000 and your monthly investments were 500. After 20 years, the balance is 400, and you wonder, hey, what was my rate of return? And so you can calculate this by saying, hey, my periods per year is 12. The number of periods is going to be 20 times 12, 240. We're trying to solve for interest. I know a present value of 27,000. I know my payment is 500, and the balance of the future value, the balance of the account, future value is 400,000. All right, we're going to solve for the interest rate. Now, we might want to go ahead and make this 27,000 negative and the 500 negative. That will make it easy to do our calculation. So our interest rate is the rate. The number of periods is 240. The payment is 500, which is negative. The present value is 27,000, which is negative. The future value is 400, which is positive. Payments happen at the end of the period, so that's a 0. And we'll guess, let's just guess 10%. All right, the answer comes out to be 0.63. Now, does that sound correct? Now, what we have received is a monthly interest rate. We received about 0.6% per month. So what we need to do in the final answer, we need to take that number times 12. Because there's not a periods per year function in Excel, we're going to have to convert that to 12 periods. In fact, we can do this times that 12. And so the answer comes out to be 7.55. That is the annual interest rate. That's the annual interest rate if we invested $27,000 and then $500 per month and it grew to $400,000. You received 7.5% interest. All right, our last section is we're going to solve for N, or the number of periods. So let's do a credit card. The credit card has a $4,000 balance with an interest rate of 18%. The minimum payment is $80. And how many months does it take to pay off the credit card if you make the minimum payment? Okay, we're assuming the minimum payment, $80. The periods per year is 12. We're going to solve for N. 18% is the interest. The present value is $4,000. The payment is going to be a negative 80. Makes that account go down, right? And the future value is 0. So how many months does it take? This one is going to be called NPER for number of periods. So the rate is 18%, but it's monthly, so divided by 12. The payment we're going to make is a negative 80. The present value is a 4,000 positive. The future value is going to be 0 negative. The type, payments happen at the end of the period, so that's 0. So it's going to take 93 months. It's going to take 93 months. Now, 93 months, if you take 93 divided by 12, that's almost 8 years. You're going to take, if you make the minimum payment of $80, it's going to take you almost 8 years to pay off that credit card. That's very expensive. So you need to know how to calculate that. The last one for solving for periods is we're going to have a little investment. You invest $350 per month and you earn 8.5%. You have a goal to have $200,000, and how many months will it take you to achieve this goal? So this is a monthly, periods per year, compounded monthly. The number of periods we're going to calculate, the interest is 8.5%. The present value, apparently we have 0 saved. We're going to make a payment of $350. So make it negative $350, and you're going to end up with $200,000. So we're going to try to figure out how many months for that to happen. So in PER, the rate is going to be 8.5% divided by 12. The payment is a negative $350. Present value, you started with 0. The future value is $200,000. And your payments happen at the end of the period, so it is 0. Now, if we want to make it the beginning of the period, you put 1, and it moves everything up 1 month. How many months will it take? It will take 229 months divided by 12. That takes you about 19 years. In 19 years, you'll have $200,000. Now, that's just $350 per month, so that's pretty amazing. In 19 years, you'll have $200,000. So you've got to get started. You start today. All right, here's how you do time value of money problems. On Excel, you always have always have a spreadsheet. This is how it works, and so you can calculate all these things on time value of money. All right, thanks for watching. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe if this is helpful to you.